Who will survive America? Few Americans, very few Negroes, and no crackers at all. Who will survive America? Few Americans, very few Negroes, and no crackers at all. Who will survive America? Very few Negroes, no crackers at all. Who will survive America? Very few Negroes, no crackers at all. Will you survive America with your 20-cent habit? Your four-bag Jones? Will you survive in the heat and fire of actual change? I doubt it. Will you survive, woman, or will your nylon wig catch a fire at midnight and light up Sterling Street and your ass prints on the pavement? Grease was melting in his brother's eyes. His profile was shot up by a Sheba, thinking who was coming around the corner was really Tony Curtis, and not a misguided brother got his mind hanging out with Italians. Who will survive America? The black future will. You can't with the fat stomach between your ears, scraping nickels out the inside of nigga daydreams. Few Americans, very few Negroes, maybe no red Negroes at all. Who will survive America? Who will survive America? The stiff-backed chalk lady Baptist and blue ladies. And she shrinks from blackness in front of the church, following the wedding of the yellow robots will not survive. She's old anyway, and they moving her church in the wind. Old people, no. Christians, no. First Negroes be invisible to truth. 1944 Minnesota, no, no. Nothing of that will be anywhere. It will be burned clean. It might sink and steam up the sea. America might, and no Americans, very few Negroes will get out there. No crackers at all. No crackers at all. No crackers at all. No crackers, no crackers at all. But the black man will survive America. His survival will mean the death of America. Survive, black man. 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 Black woman too. Survive, black man. Survive, black man. Survive, black man. Black woman too. Black woman too. Black woman. Let us all survive. Who needs to? Let us all survive. Let us all. Let us all survive. We need to. Okay, okay. We wish each other good luck. Before I begin, I want to start by sending a tribute to another one of our ancestors, Quincy Jones, who passed away at the age of 91. Quincy Jones possibly had the most Grammys of all times. I don't know. It's either between him or Aretha Franklin. I don't have time to look for it right now. Both of them American Negroes that made a stand in the entertainment industry. Not only had power within the entertainment industry, had influence in the entertainment industry. They had the most creative minds in entertainment history. That goes to credit to what American Negroes can bring to the world. And he will be missed, but it's a great thing that he left one hell of a legacy behind. Also, before I begin, if you are not subscribed to Rassling with Racism, and you are an American Negro, whether you are a wrestling fan or not, subscribe and share to every American Negro that you know, whether they are wrestling fans or not, as we get ready to head into the new project 2025. When you are frightened and confused, Which way will you choose? There's a new direction with Rassling with Racism. And I put in the playlist the message to the grassroots. This is very important each episode as we get ready for December 31st, my very own speech, America Prevents, which will lay out everything for the new project 2025. When you are frightened and confused, which way will you choose? This is important. This is going to be an important discussion. And I'm going to start off with a speech from Malcolm X, 1965. It was a speech at the Ford Auditorium. This was his last public speech before he was killed. And it was the same day or the next day after his home was burned to the ground, a week before his death. So I'm going to start off with this. There are four different types of people in the Western Hemisphere, all of whom have Africa as a common heritage, common origin. And that's the excuse me, and that's those of our people in Latin America. Now, I do have to restate this is 1965, and I'm gonna correlate it to 2025. Okay, 60 years later. But just we're gonna take this speech for what it is now, and we're gonna discuss it later. There are four types of people in the. There are four different types of people in the Western Hemisphere, all of whom have Africa as a common heritage, common origin, and that's those of our people in Latin America who are black, but who are in the Spanish speaking areas. Many, Ninja, you got to let me finish this. I'm going to get to you though. Many of them oftentimes migrate back to Spain. The only difference being Spain has such bad economic conditions until many of the people from the Latin America don't think it's worthwhile to migrate back there. And then the British and the French had a great deal of control in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. And so now you have many people from the West Indies migrating to both London rather than both England and France. The people from the British West Indies go to London, and those from the French West Indies go to Paris. And it has put France and England since World War II in the precarious position of having a sort of commonwealth structure that makes it easy for all people in the commonwealth territories to come into their country with no restrictions. So there's an increasing number of dark-skinned people in England and also in France. When I was in Africa in May, I noticed a tendency of the part of the Afro Americans to what I call lollygag. Everyone else who was over there had something on their ball, something they were doing, something constructive. For instance, Ghana, just to take Ghana as an example, there would be many refugees in Ghana from South Africa. But those who were in Ghana were organized and were serving as pressure groups. Some were training for military. Some were being trained in how to be soldiers. But others were involved as a pressure group or lobby group to let the people of Ghana never forget what's happening to the brother in South Africa, as you have brothers there from Angola or Mozambique. You got to excuse me if that's not the way to say it. But all of the Africans who were exiles from their particular country and would be in a place like Ghana or Tanganyika or Tanzania, they would be training. Their every move would still be designed to offset what was happening to their people back home where they had left. The only difference on the continent was the American Negro. Those who were there weren't even thinking about these over here. This is a basic difference. The Africans, when they escaped from their respective countries that were colonized, they didn't try to run away from the problem. Oh shit. But as soon as they got to where they were going, they began to organize into pressure groups to get the government support at the international level against injustices they were experiencing back home. And as I said, the American Negro or the Afro American who was in the various countries, some working for this government, some working for that government, some just in business. They were just socializing. They had turned their backs on their cause over there. They were partying, you know. And when I went through one country in particular, I heard a lot of their complaints, and I didn't make any move on them. But when I got to another country, I found the Afro Americans there were making the same complaints. So we sat down and talked, and we organized a branch in this particular country, a branch of the OAAU, Organization of Afro American Unity. That one was the only one in existence at the time. Then during the summer, when I went back to Africa, I was able in each country that I visited to get the Afro American community together and organize them and make them aware of their responsibility to those who are still here in the lion's den. They began to do quite well. And when I got to Paris and London, there are many Afro Americans in Paris and many in London. And in December, no, November, we organized a group in Paris. And just within a very short time, they had grown into a well organized unit. And they, in conjunction with the African community, invited me to Paris Tuesday to address a large gathering of Parisans and Afro Americans and people from the Caribbean and also from Africa who were interested in our struggle in this country and the rate of progress that we have been making. But since the French government and the British government and this government here, the United Snakes, know that I have been almost frantically stressing the importance of Afro American uniting with the African and working as a coalition, especially in areas which are of mutual benefit to all of us. Mutual benefit to all of us. I'm going to say it one more time. Mutual benefit to all of us. And the governments in these different places were frightened because they know that the black revolution that's taking place on the outside of their house. And I might point out right here that colonialism and imperialism, as the slave system of the West is called, is not something that's just confined to England or France or the United States. But the interests in this country are in cahoots with the interests in France and the interests in Britain. It's one huge complex or combined, and it creates what's known as the American power structure or the French power structure. But it's an international power structure. And this international power structure is used to suppress the masses of dark skinned people all over the world and exploit them of their natural resources. So that the era in which you and I have been living in during the past 10 years, most specifically, has witnessed the upsurge on the part of the Black American man in Africa against its power structures. And mind you, this is 1965. Like I said, I'm going to put it in context later. Now, mind you, the power structure is international and as such its own domestic base in London, in Paris, in Washington, D.C., and so forth. And the outside or external phase of the revolution, which is manifest in the attitude and action of Africans today, is troublesome. Enough. The revolution on the outside of the house or the outside of the structure is troublesome enough. But now the powers that be are beginning to see that this struggle on the outside of the black man is infecting the black man who is on the inside of that structure. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Basically, the Africans outside, the Americans inside. Okay? The newly awakened people all over the world pose a problem for what's known as Western interests, which is imperialism, colonialism, racism, and all these other negative isms or vulturistic isms. Just as the external forces pose a grave threat, they can now see that the internal forces pose an even greater threat. But the internal forces pose an even greater threat only when they have properly analyzed the situation and now what the stakes really are. Just by advocating a coalition of Africans, Afro Americans, Arabs, and Asians who live within the structure, it automatically has upset France, which is supposed to be one of the most liberal countries on earth. And it made shit. And it made them expose their hand. England the same way. And I don't have to tell you about this country that we are living in right now. So when you count the number of dark-skinned people in the Western Hemisphere, you can see that there are probably over 100 million. When you consider Brazil has two-thirds of what we call colored or non-white, and Venezuelan, Honduras, and other Central American countries, Cuba and Jamaica, and the United States, and even Canada. When you total all of these people up, you probably have over 100 million. And this 100 million on the inside of the power structure today is what is causing a great deal of concern for the power structure itself. Not a great deal of concern for all white people, but a great deal of concern for most white people. See, if I said all white people, then they would call me racist for giving blanket condemnation of things. And this is true. This is how they do it. They take one little word out of what you say, ignore all the rest, and then begin to magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually aren't. And I'm used to that. And speaking of me being used to that, what's up, Ronald? I got you in 1 second, Pecker Tom. Black Ninja, this is a true coon right here. Fuck what you heard. This mentally untouchable cat is a real fucking coon. But I'll put you up later on. Anyway, let me continue. And this is true. And this is how they do it. They take one little word out of what you said, ignore all the rest, and then begin to magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually aren't. And I'm used to that. So we saw that the first thing to do was to unite our people. You hear this, Ninja? the very first thing to do was to unite our people. Not only unite us internally, but have to be united with our brothers and sisters abroad. It was for that purpose that I spent 5 months in the Middle East and Africa during the summer. The trip was very enlightening, inspiring, and fruitful. I didn't go into any African country or any country in the Middle East for that matter and run into any closed doors, closed mind, or closed heart. I found a warm reception and an amazingly deep interest and sympathy for the black man in this country in regards to our struggle for human rights. Big difference from civil rights, which we received, I guess. Yeah. While I was traveling, I had the chance to speak to Cairo, or rather Alexandria, with President Nasir for about an hour and a half. He's a brilliant man, and I could see why they are so afraid of him. And they are afraid of him. They know what he can cut off their oil. They know he can cut off their oil. And actually, the only power he respects is power. Whenever you find a man who's in a position to show power against power, then that man is respected. But you can take a man who has power and love him all the rest of your life, non-violently and forgivingly, and all the rest of those off-time things, and you won't get anything out of it. Bookmark that. So I also had a chance to speak to President Nair in which is now Tanzania, and also Kenyatta. I know that all of you know him. He was the head of the Mau Mau, which really brought freedom to many of the African countries. This is true. The Mau Mau played a major role in bringing freedom for Kenya, and not only for Kenya, but other African countries. But what the Mau Mau did frighten the white man so much in other countries that he said, well, I better get this thing straight before some of them pop up here. This is good to study because you see what makes him react. Nothing loves, nothing loving makes him react. Nothing forgiving makes him react. The only time he reacts is when he knows you can hurt him. And when you let him know that you can hurt him, he has to think 2 or 3 times before he tries to hurt you. But if you're going to do nothing but return that love, that hurt with love, why good night. He knows you're out of your mind. And I also had the opportunity to speak with President Ezekiel of Nigeria, President Nkrumah in Ghana, and President Sekou Touré in Guinea. and all and in all of these people, I found nothing but warmth, friendship, sympathy, and a desire to help the black man in this country in fighting our problem. And we have a very complex problem. Now, I hope you'll forgive me for just speaking so informally tonight, but I frankly think it's always better to be informal. As far as I'm concerned, I can speak to people better in an informal way than I could with all this stiff formality that ends up meaning nothing, Ronald. Plus, when people are informal, they're relaxed. When they're relaxed, their mind is more open and they can weigh things more objectively. Whenever you and I are discussing our problems, we need to be very objective, very cool, calm, collected. But that doesn't mean we should always be. There's a time to be cool and there's a time to be hot. See, you got messed up into thinking that there's only one time for everything. There's a time to love and there is a time to hate. Even Solomon said that. And he was in that book too. You're just taking something out of the book that fits your cowardly nature. And when you don't want to fight, you say, well, Jesus said. don't fight. But I don't even believe Jesus said that. Also, I'm very pleased to see so many who have come out to see always for yourself, where you can hear for yourself and then think for yourself. Then you will be in a better position to make intelligent judgment for yourself. But if you form the habit of listening to what others say about something or someone, or reading what someone else has written about someone, somebody can confuse you and misuse you. So Afro Americans or black people here in the Western hemisphere, you and I have to learn to weigh things for ourselves. No matter what the man says, you better look into it. And a good example of why it's important to look into things for yourself. I was on a plane between the Algiers and the Geneva, and it just happened to be two other Americans sitting there. We're sitting in two seats next to me. None of us knew each other, and the other two were white, one male, the other a female. And after we had been flying a long time, along for about 40 minutes, the lady says, "Can I ask you a personal question?" I says, "Yes." She said, "Well," she had been looking at my briefcase, and she said, "Well, what does the X?" She says, "What kind of last name could you have that begins with X?" So I said, that it X, and she said, "Well, does what does M stand for?" I said, "Malcolm." She was quiet for about 10 minutes, and she turned to me and says, "You're not Malcolm X." You see, we have been riding along in a nice conversation like three human beings. No hostility, no animosity, just human. And she couldn't take this. She said, "Well, you're not who I was looking for." And she ended up telling me that she was looking for horns in that. And for someone who was out to kill all white people, as if all white people could be killed. This was her general attitude. And the attitude had been given her this image. This image had been given to her by the press. And I'm going to bookmark that too. So before I get involved in anything nowadays, I have to straighten out my own positions, which is clear. I am not a racist in any form whatsoever. I don't believe in any form of racism. I don't believe in any form of discrimination or segregation. Segregation. Segregation, which is a major difference from separation. And I'll get into that again later on. So bookmark that. I believe in, and this is Malcolm words because I am not a Muslim, but I believe in Islam. I am a Muslim, and there's nothing wrong with being a Muslim. Nothing wrong with the religion of Islam. It teaches us to believe in Allah as God. Those of you who are Christians probably believe in the same God because I think you believe in the God who created the universe. That's the one we believe in. The one who created the universe. The only difference being you call him God and we call him Allah. The Jews call him Jehovah. If you could understand Hebrew, you'd probably call him Jehovah too. If you could understand Arabic, you'd probably call him Allah. But since the white man, your friend, took your language away from you during slavery, took the only language you know in his language, your friend's language. So you call for the same God that he calls. When he's putting a rope around your neck, you call for God, and he calls for God. And you wonder why you call on and never answers you. That's how that was put. So that once you realize that I believe in the supreme being who creates the universe and believe in him as being one, I also have been taught in Islam that one God only has one religion, and the religion is called Islam. And all of the prophets who came forth taught the religion, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Mohammed, all of them, and believing in one God and one religion and all of the prophets, it creates unity. There's no room for argument, no need for us to be arguing with each other. And also in that religion, of the real religion of Islam, when I was in the Black Muslims movement, I wasn't. They didn't have the real religion of Islam in that movement. It was something else. And the real religion of Islam doesn't teach anyone to judge another human being by the color of his skin. The yardstick is that the yardstick that is used by a Muslim to measure another man is not the man's color, but the man's deeds, the man's conscious behavior, the man's intention. And when you use that standard of measurement or judgment, you never go wrong. But when you judge a man because of the color of his skin, then you are committing a crime because that's the worst kind of judgment. If you judged him because he was a Jew, that's not a bad, that's not as bad as judging him because he's black. Because a Jew can hide his religion. He can say he's something else, and which a lot of them do that. They say there's something else, but the black man can't hide. When they start indicating us because of the color of our skin, oh, wait. When they start indicting us because of our color, that means we're indicted before we were born, which is the worst crime that could be committed. The Muslim religion has eliminated all tendencies to judge a man according to the color of his skin, but rather the judgment based on these. My bad, I keep getting these goddamn messages. And when and when prior to going into the Muslim world, I didn't have any Elijah Muhammad that taught us that the white man could enter the Makkah in Arabia, and all of who follow him. We believe it. And he said that the reason that he couldn't enter was because he's white and inherently evil. And it's impossible to change him. And the only thing that would change him is Islam. And he can't accept Islam because by nature, he's evil. And therefore, by not being able to accept Islam and become a Muslim, he could never enter Makkah that taught us, you know. So when I got over there and went to Mackay, I saw these people who were blonde and blue-eyed and pale-skinned and all of those things. I said, well, but I watched them closely and I noticed that though they were white and they would call themselves white, there was a difference between them and the white one over here. And that basic difference was this: in Asia or in Arab world or in Africa where Muslims are, if you find one who says he's white, all he's doing is using an adjective to describe something that's incidental about him. One of his incidental characteristics. So there's nothing else to it. He's just white. But when you get the white man over here in America and he says that he's white, he means something else. You can listen to the sound of his voice when he says he's white. He means he's boss. That's right. That's what white means in this language. You know the expression free white and 21. He made that up. So he's letting you know all of them mean the same. White means free, boss. He's up here. So that when he says he's white, he has little different sound in his voice. And I know you know what I'm talking about. This was what I saw missing in the Muslim world. If they said they were white, it was incidental. White, black, brown, red, yellow. It didn't make any difference what color you are. So this was the religion I had accepted and had gone there to get a better knowledge of it. But despite the fact that I saw Islam was a religion of brotherhood, I also had to face reality. And when I got back into this American society, I'm not in a society of practices of brotherhood. I'm in a society that might preach it on Sunday, but they don't practice it on no day, on any day. And so since I could see that America itself is a society where there is no brotherhood, and that this is a society controlled primarily by racists and segregationists, and is who are in Washington, D.C., in positions of power. And from Washington, D.C., they exercise the same forms of brutal oppression against dark skinned people in South and North Vietnam, or in the Congo, or in Cuba, or in any other place on this earth where they are trying to exploit and oppress. This is a society whose government doesn't hesitate to inflict the most brutal form of punishment and oppression upon dark skinned people all over the world. To wit, right now, what's going on in around Saigon or Hanoi or in the Congo and elsewhere, they are violent when their interests are at stake. But all of that violence that they display at the international level, when you and I want a little bit of freedom, we're supposed to be nonviolent. They're violent. They're violent in Korea. They're violent in Germany. They're violent in the South Pacific. They're violent in Cuba. They're violent wherever they go. I'm talking about white folk. But when it and white folk in America. But when it comes time for you and me to protect ourselves against lynchings, they tell us to be nonviolent. That's a shame because we get tricked into being nonviolent. And when somebody stands up and talks like I just did, they say, why he's advocating violence. Instead, that what they say, every time you pick up your newspaper and you see where one of these things has written into it that I'm advocating violence, I have never advocated any violence. I've only said that black people who are victims of organized violence perpetrated upon us by the Klan, the Citizens Council, and many other forms, we should defend ourselves. But when I say that we should defend ourselves against the violence of others, they use their press skillfully to make the world think that I'm calling on violence. Period. I wouldn't call on anybody to be violent without a cause. But I think that the black man in this country, above and beyond people all over the world, will be more justified when he stands up and starts to protect himself. No matter how many necks he has to break and heads he have to crack. I saw in the paper where they were on television where they took a black woman down in Selma, Alabama, and knocked her right down to the ground, dragging her down to the street. You saw it. You're trying to pretend like you didn't see it because you knew if you should have done something about it and didn't, it showed the sheriff and his henchmen throwing this woman on the ground, they repeated. And Negro men standing around doing nothing about it and saying, well, let's overcome them with our love, our capacity to love. What kind of phrase is that? Uh, Overcome them with our capacity to love. And then it disgraces us to the rest of the world. I'm sorry, and then it disgraces the rest of us because all over the world the picture is splashed showing a black woman and with some white brutes with her knees on her, holding her down, with their knees on her, holding her down, and full grown black men standing around watching while you're lucky to stand on this let stay on while you're lucky they let you stay on this earth, much less in this country. You got to figure that like it was like 10 motherfuckers standing around when George Floyd had a knee on his neck. They felt powerless. They couldn't do shit. This is what they felt. They wasn't willing to risk prison. they wasn't willing to risk their life. But let me get back to this. I'm almost finished. When I saw it dispatched out wired to Rockwell, was one of the agitators down there. Rockwell, this is Rockwell Lincoln. And the wire said, in essence, that this is to warn him that I am no longer held in check from fighting white supremacists by Elijah Muhammad's separatist black Muslim movement. And that if Rockwell's presence in Alabama causes harm to come to Dr. King or any black person in Alabama who's doing nothing other than trying to enjoy their rights, the Rockwell and his Ku Klux Klan friends will be met with the maximum retaliation from those of us who are not handcuffed by this nonviolent philosophy. And I haven't heard from Rockwell since. Brothers and sisters, if you and I just realize that once we learn how to talk the language that they understand, they will get to the point. You can't reach a man if you don't speak his language. If a man speaks the language of brute force, you can't come to him with peace. Why, good night. He'll break you in two, as if he has been doing all along. If a man speaks French, you can't come to him and speak German. If he speaks Swahili, you can't communicate with him in Chinese. You have to find out what does this man speak. And once you know his language, learn how to speak his language, and he'll get to the point. There'll be some dialogue, some communication, and some understanding will be developed. I speak white folk language. You've been in this country long enough to know the language that the Klan speaks. They only know one language. And what you and I have to start doing in 1965, now leading into 2025. I mean, that's what you have to do because most of us are already doing it. Is start learning a new language. Learn the language that they understand. And then when they come up on your doorstep to talk, we can talk and they will get the point. There'll be dialogue. There'll be some type of communication. And I'm quite certain that then there will be some understanding. Why? Because the Klan is cowardly outfit. It's a cowardly outfit. They have perfected the art of making Negroes be afraid. As long as the Negroes are afraid, the Klan is safe. But the Klan itself is cowardly. One of them will never come after one of you. They all come together, sure, and they're scared of you. And you sit there when they're putting the rope around your neck. Forgive them, Lord. They do not know what they do. As long as they've been doing it, they're experts at it. They know what they're doing. No, since the federal government has shown that it isn't going to do anything, but it I'm sorry, anything about it but talk. It is a duty. It's your duty, my duty as men, as human beings. It is our duty to our people to organize ourselves and let the government know that if they don't stop that Klan, we'll stop it ourselves. And then you will see the government start doing something about it. But don't ever think that they're going to do something about it just on some kind of morality basis. So I don't believe in violence. That's why I want to stop it. And you can't stop it with love, not love of things down there. No. So we only mean vigorous actions in self defense. And that vigorous action, we feel we're justified in initiating by any means necessary. Not oppressed. Behind something like that. They call us racist and people who are violent in reverse. This is a this is how they cycle you. They make you think that if you try to stop the Klan from lynching you, you're practicing violence in reverse. Pick up on this. I hear a lot of you all parrot what the man say. You say, I don't want to be a Ku Klux Klan in reverse. Well, hey, if a criminal comes around your house with a gun, brother, just because he's got a gun and he's robbing your house, brother, and he's a robber, it doesn't make you a robber because you grab your gun and run him out. No. See, the man is using some tricky logic on you, and he has absolutely got a Ku Klux Klan outfit that goes through the country frightening black people. Now, I say it in the time for black people to put together this type of action, this unity that is necessary to pull the sheet off of them, and so that they won't be frightening black people any longer. That's all. And when we say this, the press calls us racist in reverse. Don't struggle. Only the ground rules that the people you're struggling against have laid down. Why this is insane. But it shows you how they can do it with skillful manipulating of the press. They're able to make the victim look like the criminal and the criminal look like the victim. Right now in New York, we have a couple of cases where police grabbed the brother and beat him unmercifully and then charged him with assaulting them. They used this, they used the press to make it look like the criminal is I'm sorry. They used the press to make it look like he's the criminal and that they're the victim. This is how they do it. And if you study how they do it here, then you will know how they do it over here. It's the same going, I'm sorry, it's the same game going all the time. And if you and I don't awaken and see what this man is doing to us, then it'll be too late. They may have the gas ovens already built before you realize that they're hot. One of the shrewd ways that they use the press to project us and in the eye image of a criminal, they take statistics. Duke, I got you in a minute. I just got to finish this speech. Um, One of the shrewd ways they use the press to project us in the eye or image of a criminal. They take statistics, and with the press, they feed these statistics to the public, primarily the white public, because there are some well-meaning persons in the white public as well as in the bad meanings, as well as bad meanings persons in the white public. And whatever the government is going to do, it always wants the public on its side. Whatever it's local government, state government, federal government. So they use the press to create images. And at the local level, they'll create an image by feeding statistics to the press, through the press, showing the high crime rate in the Negro community. As soon as this high crime rate emphasized the as soon as the high crime rate emphasized through the press, then the people began to look upon the Negro community as a community of criminals. And then any Negro in the community can be stopped in the street. Put your hands up. They pat you down. You might be a doctor, a lawyer, a preacher, or some kind of Uncle Tom. But despite, Ronald, your ass, they could get your ass at any minute. But despite your professional standing, you will find that you're the same victim as the man who's in the alley. Just because you're black and you live in a black community, which has been projected as a community of criminals, this is done. And once the public accepts this image, also it paves the way for police state type of activity in the Negro community. They can use any kind of brutal methods to suppress blacks. They're criminals anyway. And what has given this image? The press again. By letting the power structure or the racist element in the power structure use them in that way. A very good example was the riots that took place here in the summer during the summer. I was in Africa and I read about them there. If you will notice, they referred to the rioters as vandals, hoodlums, thieves. They tried to make it appear that this wasn't they tried to make it. And they did this. They skillfully took the burden off. the society for its failure to correct the negative conditions in the black community. It took the burden completely off the society and put it right on the community by using the press to make it appear that the looting and all of this was proof that the whole act was nothing. I'm sorry, that the whole act was nothing but vandals, robbers, and thieves who weren't really interested in anything other than which was negative. And I hear many old, dumb, brainwashed Negroes who parrot the same party line that the man handed down on his paper. Like this Pecker Tom Ron right here, this mentally untouchable cat. Don't worry, y'all gonna hear some of his dumbass rhetoric in a minute. It was not the case that we're just, I'm sorry, it was not the case that they were just knocking out stores and windows ignorantly in Harlem, for instance. All of the stores who are owned by white people, all of the buildings who are owned by white people, black people are just there paying rent, buying groceries, but they don't own the stores, the clothing stores, good stores. I'm sorry, the food stores, any kind of stores. Don't even own the homes that they live in. This is all owned by outsiders. And then these rundown apartment dwellings. The black man in Harlem pays more money for it than the man down in Rich Park Avenue section. It costs us more money to live in the slum than it costs to live down in Park Avenue. Black people, and this is true. I would give several testimonies to that soon. Um, it costs us more money to live in the slum than it costs them to live down on Park Avenue. Black people in Harlem know this, and the white merchants charge us more money for food in Harlem, and it's the cheap food. It's the worst food, and we have to pay more money for it than the man has to pay downtown. So black people know that they're being exploited and that their blood is being sucked and they see no way out of it. So finally, when the thing is sparked, the white man is not there. He's gone. The merchant is not there. The landlord is not there. The only one he considers to be the enemy isn't there. So they knock at his property. This is what makes them knock down the store windows, and set the fires and things of that sort. Black Ninja, I hope you're hearing this. It's not that they're thieves, but they try to protect the image to the public that this is being done by thieves and thieves alone. And they ignored the fact that no, it's not thievery alone. It's a corrupt, vicious, hypocritical system that has castrated the black man. And the only way that the black man can get back at it is to strike it the only way that he knows how. They use the press. That doesn't mean that all reporters are bad. Some of them are good, I suppose. But you can take their collective approach to any problem and see that they can always agree when it comes to you and me. They knew that they were given this affair, which is designed to honor outstanding black Americans. Is it not? You'd find nothing in the newspapers that give you the slightest hint that this was going to take place. Not one hint. Why, you see, you have many sources of news. If you don't think that they're in cahoots, watch. They're all interested, or none of them are interested. It's not a staggering thing. They're not going to say anything in advance about an event that's being given by any black people who believe in functioning beyond the scope of ground rules that are laid down by the liberal element of the power structure. Or shit. All right, I got a little while to go. I'm gonna take a break, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna take a break on that because it's certain key points. I'm gonna do a part two of this either this weekend or next week, but I'm gonna stop that right there. Um, Ninja, are you able to speak? Chad, what's up? Undefeated, what's up? Undefeated. I appreciate you last week, bro. You came through. For real. So you are more than welcome to speak if you like. I got a coon up here. But I'm gonna hold this coon to the side. He gonna sit here as long as I let him sit. Anyway, you know. Um, I need to take a break, right quick because I just read for like fucking 30 minutes and shit. And like I said, when I do these, I don't think it's gonna go as long as it do, and it tend to go long. But it's a lot of things that I need to get out today, because the election passed. Donald Trump won by a pretty damn good margin, and I want to get everybody thoughts on that. And it's things that we need to start thinking about over the next year specifically, but over the next couple of years. But we're gonna get into all that later on, right quick. I'm gonna just get everybody situated and settled right quick. I'm waiting on one particular person to come through, but he coming through in a minute. Duke, you got something you want to say? Chad, if you want to come in, you can come
Uh,
on in too.
yeah. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Hope you're feeling good on this lovely Thursday evening. And well, I mean, I would say I was surprised by the election, but I wasn't because I knew um, that Donald Trump was going to win, but I didn't think he was going to probably. I think it was going to be close, but I think Trump would win because this country, a lot of people in this country, and I'm not talking about just white women, but like Latinos, Latin men, like women, white women, all this. They really just love strong man. They love that white strong man and such. You look at the countries they have a real connection to that. And I think it's going to be the coming demographics is going to show that they love that type of fascist type of type of thing and stuff. And quite honestly, once because again they're having kids right now, they're the ones having upward economic ability right now, and they are going to be a huge base for the party. But also, if you notice, and I know this is going to probably piss some people off and such, maybe not people here, but when the people hear this, but you notice that a lot of black folk, a lot of down in the South and down the places that did go for Biden, they sat home. They stayed home. They stayed home and they did not want to be they didn't want to vote for Kamala Harris. And I think that comes up the reason why is because they feel disrespected. They feel like there's no why would they vote for something that have there's no tangibles, there's no chance of actually, connecting with them. And the plan for black men was a complete hilarious joke. Saying, oh, we'll give you crypto and weed, which is basically that type of stuff, which is so the meaning and lacking of respect. And and most because I guarantee you, you look at it was a very vast thing for Latinos and such saying, oh, those black people they don't need weed to put that over here. We get real tangibles for Latinos, real tangible and all that type of stuff. But that's the problem. There's no tangibles where you look at black people or whoever in this country who's trying to get ahead and everything. They felt like Kamala Harris didn't give that to them, so they just stayed home. And I think in the coming years, there's going to be a reckoning in the Democratic Party that they'll say, okay, we can't get Latinos, so we have to really get back to the black community. And that means they're going to have to do something that might be a little bit, against their programming and such, and say, all right, you know, built with white supremacy and everything. Is actually you have to give black men, women, boys, and girls tangibles, reparations, those type of things, which would, you want to talk about a whole shift of this of everything. It would be a radical shift and such, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But I think if they have an ear, that is what people will will vote for. In fact, this whole trend of black people not voting started after '08. So after President Obama came in, it was a landslide victory. Florida went blue. Georgia went blue. All these places that were red came blue, and people were talking about Texas when they being blue, all that stuff. But as the years went on, the black vote, since President Obama didn't really do much, didn't really help the black community. In fact, he pardoned everybody from the banks, which just hurt the entire black home market and such, and you know all these other things. He just like it kept getting worse and worse and worse. Black support, you know, smaller and smaller. In fact, he did, help himself by, talking all that stuff against black folk and everything else. So it just keeps getting worse and worse until they just stop going. And I think that's not going. I think Democrats have to do that. Have Democrats must really re-engage with the black people. Even though some say, oh, this, that, no, there's a significant few of black folk who feel disrespected, black men and black women, because the votes are down by both. So I don't know what you do in that situation. And I know Von West has something to say, so I'm gonna stop right here because I think that that's what it takes. And also, getting back to like my little domain of pro wrestling, since Trump is back in office, you know what that means? Old Benny Mac is coming back. That's right. The Hunter, the Levesque era is grand opening, grand closing. It's over. Mid March,
I,
he's there. And guess what's gonna happen? Like I said, by mid March, Vince is gonna be fully clean. He's gonna walk back in. He's hell. I wouldn't be surprised since TKO is like WWE has a lot of debt and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if Vince bought that stuff back and he said, "Hey, the power is back, pal." And power
yeah,
walks to the
I
ring
got you.
and fires.
I got you on that.
You know,
I got you on that
you
for
understand what
sure.
I'm saying, though, right?
No,
I mean,
I
that's what's
understand
gonna
you, and
happen.
I agree with you 100% on that. I've seen that coming, but the wrestling aspect, I am going to get on wrestling, but right now we just gonna start with this right quick. I got a lot of people in the room that's not on the wrestling end, but we're gonna get these discussions out the way, and it is things that I do want to speak on the wrestling end, as several people kind of vented their frustrations. If you haven't noticed this week, but we're gonna get on that. Duke, I'm a bookmark what you said. I'm gonna come back to it right now. I'm gonna go to Vovo, Vovo Ranch. What's up? You got it?
How you feel, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna just touch on the topic. What I feel as though is next is if he honored his promise, he could literally crash out the Democratic Party for the next 20 years. You know what I mean? If he honored his promise, if he say it's gonna be
Can you just for the programming sake, can you lay out those promises real quick?
what did you say?
I said just for the programming sake, can you just lay out those promises real quick?
Well, the one promise that could crash out the Democratic Party is mass deportation. If he start deporting people and he start deporting people, the Democrats already losing the black vote. It's already lost. So that's lost. That's gone. You know what I mean? Why if he mass deportate the Latinos and not just the Latinos, just illegals period, or immigrants period, and we slow down the influx of immigration. And one thing he can do, if he give black Americans something, something good, it's got to be good though. It can't just be anything. Black Americans are going to be loyal. We always voted as a base, so he could literally buy our vote. He could crash out the Democratic Party. You know what I mean? If he do mass deportation and he give black people something specific for us, I can't see the Democrats winning the election for the next 20 election. I mean, for the next 20 years, I can't see them winning it because who would be voting for them? The Democratic Party, what they did is they spread themselves too thin. They try to satisfy everybody, and then they shitted on their base. We're their base. Obviously, we are the swing vote, the Black Americans. We're the swing vote. If you get enough of us to vote, you get Obama. If you get enough of us to vote, you get a Biden. If you don't get enough of us to vote, you get a Trump. So we're the swing vote. So all Trump got to do is just do right by black people and do mass deportation, and the Republican Party got it for at least the next 2-3 elections minimum.
From my standpoint, from my viewpoint, I highly doubt that Trump is gonna do anything for us. As I would have said the same thing about the Democrats. They wouldn't have did a damn thing for us. The way my perspective, this is the very last election that they're gonna try to pander to us in any way. With the amount of Hispanics, the amount of legal Hispanics that's in America, it supposedly outnumbers us. Supposedly.
But this
So
is
I honestly believe this is the last one. And when I look at the stats of these uh, people that voted and shit, it seemed like our vote was a not. I'm sorry, this ambulance passing by, but it seemed like it was a our vote was a non-factor anyway. If 100% of us had voted behind the Democrats, I believe that she still would have lost. That's just my personal belief on that. You got it.
But your personal belief. I understand that, brother. I'm not trying to start an argument on that. But your
No, you
personal
good.
belief is not the
Open
fact.
discussion.
Yeah, your personal belief is not the facts. If she would have got enough of us to vote with her, it would have been at least a lot closer. We already seen this. Like 2020, black people wanted to punish Trump for all the bullshit that was going on. This election, a lot of black people, we was talking red, vote for Trump, and we see what happened. So you know what I mean? Like we could have got her in there if we really wanted to, but it just we wasn't feeling her. You know what I mean? And my thing is this, right? You said the Hispanics supposed to outnumber us. That's not true because the Hispanics are not one group of people. Puerto Ricans don't fuck with Mexicans. Mexicans don't fuck with Dominicans. Dominicans don't fuck with Cubans. These are different people. They want to make that sense. That's a Jedi mind trick they working with that shit. That's bullshit. These people don't fuck with each other like that. Even they got even I done seen it myself. I done seen to where different Puerto Ricans don't even fuck with each other. And they both claim to be Puerto Rican. If you look at it, the northern Mexican don't fuck with the southern Mexican. The southern Mexican don't fuck with the Texas Mexican. The Mexican that's living in New York don't fuck with none of them. He don't know them. So they not all one big group. The Black American is the biggest ethnic group in America today. The biggest single ethnic group that's all one ethnic group. Even more bigger than white people. White people got the numbers because they different groups of white people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get into that. That's a long conversation, but
No, most people up here understand that. It's one in particular that just don't. Well, we're gonna get to his bobbleheaded ass in a minute. You got anything else you want to add?
no, I
I'm
think
gonna
that's pretty much
respond
it.
to key things that you said, and same thing with Duke. I'm gonna respond to key things that Duke said as well. I just want to get everybody out on the flow first. Jamal, what's up? You welcome. Chad, undefeated, and the haze of our lives. You more than welcome to come up as well. This is an open discussion, just starting with giving y'all opinions on the election. Ninja, you got it.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say, I think the Democrats, all they had to do was push reparations and just appeal to black people. And they neglected the black vote, and that's why they got crushed. So I think with Trump, like somebody else said, if they can push deportation and get the immigrants out, that's gonna help us a little bit. But we got to take, what we can get. We got to invest because he's going to pump the markets. So we got to make sure we invest it and just, take what we can get because it was going to be fucked up either way. So,
I want to throw two questions out real quick to everybody. Just something to think about. It don't have to be a quick answer. But one, do you think that if Kamala Harris in the Democratic campaign had a pushed reparations, that she felt like? Do you believe that maybe she would have felt like that would have hurt her campaign, especially with these pro-Trump um, people or even white people that supported her, but once they mention reparations, they may turn their back on them. Well, they obviously turned their back on her anyway, these white women. But do you think that would have turned them off even more? Vava, I got you in a second. Also, the second question is, me personally, and I know a lot of people that benefited financially throughout uh, the Trump 4 years. Um, to me, it was one of the better times. But with this being his second and possible last term, do you think he's going to have that same energy, or would he be the devil that people say that he is? That's just something to think about. Vovo, you got it.
Well, let me say this, right? Like, hold on. The first question was about Kamala. The reparations thing. If Kamala had pushed reparations, then she would have won by a landslide. If she would have said that, if she would have said something, if she would have said, "Yeah, we're gonna do reparations under my presidency," oh, that would have changed the game. That everybody would have voted. I would have voted for her. I would have willed my mama in there to vote for. I would have willed my aunties. I would have made sure I got everybody that ain't voting. I would have did a carpooling service, free carpooling service. Anybody want to go vote? As long as you want to go vote for Kamala Harris, I'm gonna get your ass down there. I would at least got 20 extra votes personally.
Is this what you knowing the historical deceit of the Democrats,
You said what?
including in California? What's going on in California now?
What you saying? I'm not asking. I ain't.
No, like you know how deceitful the Democrats have been sending false promises. Would that become a factor? And would you consider that like, hey, maybe she's just
Well,
saying that
brother.
just to get in?
That's a very weird question because anybody can deceive you. Like if she said that this what she gonna do, that's what I'm voting for. Now if she tell me
Hmm.
that's what she gonna do and then she tricked me, then that's different. But yeah, if
Right.
I'm talking about on she said this what she doing, this what she campaigning on. Like I voted for Trump for certain reasons. You know what I mean? Now, if Trump reneged on what he said he was going to do, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be upset. But I voted for that. Well, I don't know what nobody's going to do. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But you know what I mean? That's what I'm looking for. Like when I go to work, these people said they pay me every Friday, so I'm expecting $1,400 tomorrow. They need to be paying me. I don't know if they're gonna pay me. I'm gonna see at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully they send me my money. But I go to work in good faith, thinking that they're gonna pay me. So you know what I mean? I don't know what they're gonna do. But my thing is, what you said, like if she pushed that, would it be different? Yeah, it would have been different. She would have won if she would have pushed that. If she would have came out there and worded that the right way to not alienate her other voters, if she would have said some shit like we need to do right by these people. These people been here in this country. We need to do right by them. Black Americans need to rebuild Black America. Like if she would have had a nigga like me worded, she would have been official. You know what I mean? But let me ask you a second question about Trump. Uh, I forgot what it was though. I forgot what it was.
Do you think he gonna keep up the same energy? Like I said, a lot of American Negroes benefited during his first 4 years. A lot of really most of America did, honestly. But do you think that um, American Negroes will have the same benefit as everyone else during his second term, second and possible last term?
I would say absolutely. I would say absolutely. If he do everything he said he gonna do, like me, I benefited. That was the most money I ever made in my life. The most money I ever had in my life is when Trump was president. I went to the oil field. I worked in the oil field. Um, they flew us down there, put us in the dope ass hotel. They gave us brand new trucks. I'm talking about brand. I snatched the plastic off my truck, off the seats. This is brand new. I'm the only person to ever drive it. You know what I mean? They gave us 97,000 guaranteed just to be there. You know what I mean? They was giving away $100,000 a year jobs like it was water, and we was getting the oil out the ground down there in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. You know what I mean? The guy that was filling the trucks was making 75, 80,000 a year just to put gas in the trucks. You know what I mean?
Was it a fair portion of American Negroes?
What I'm saying is that that it was good under Trump. Everybody benefited. That's I'm just telling my
Right, right. I got you.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like the whole country was doing better. They up under Trump.
Right,
Trump is a businessman. He's got a business instinct. I read his book. Trump went to business school. He's got business degree. He's been doing business. His family is a business family. So he's got a business instinct. He's going to do what's right for business. And ain't that what we really want? You know what I mean? Like if Kamala was president, white people ain't gonna stop being racist and no shit like that. And nobody ain't gonna stop being racist. I don't care if they're racist. I don't give a fuck. That's just a part of
right.
life. So I'm about to be 40. So if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense to me. That's just how I am. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't want to go into the well, I could, but I don't want to hog the mic up. You know what I mean? But
No, you good.
no, I just don't want to. I don't want to. I say somebody else had their hand up. Reasons why
I
I voted.
understand. Ninja, did you and Jamal? I got you next. Ninja, did you want to say something real quick?
Yeah. So back to the question of if Kamala would have supported reparations. I think with a lot of these sellout politicians, these black sellouts, it's like white people don't respect them because they're not for their people. Like they're so spineless and all of that. And I think they would get more respect from white people, if they stood up for their people. So, oh
All
shit.
right, Jamal,
What up, man?
what's up, brother?
All right. Well, as far as Kamala supporting reparations, let's see, man. If she supported reparations, she might have won, but honestly, I still don't think she would have won. Because even if she supports it, right? A lot of people going to look at it as like, well, how's she going to get it done? How's she going to get it done? And with that dumbass bitch, she ain't even going to be able to explain it.
Yeah,
And that's what's going to fuck it up. See, there's a whole difference from just supporting it versus explaining how you going to get it done, right?
yeah.
And once it gets to that part, we're cooked. It's going like somebody like her supporting it, and then you get to the nitty gritty of it, and it would just fall apart. The enthusiasm of it will fall apart. So
I mean, one thing that we always run into when we hear Democrats speak is, "Oh, the Republicans blocked this." The Republicans got control of the House. Uh, we need to gain control of the House. And I never hear Republicans say, "Hey, Democrats blocked something. Democrats did this. Democrats did that." This is why I say they work hand in hand, and this is low key a game that's always a detriment to us specifically, because the Republicans got the House now, and obviously she probably would have had a bigger fight on her fucking hands and wouldn't have been able to get shit done if that's the case.
I got a question. Speaking of the House, the Supreme Court, what does that fall under? That's his own thing
I think so. Is it?
because
I mean,
Vova. I know Vovo. No. Because I was gonna say, I mean,
do American Negroes get to touch the Supreme Court?
that's
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't, I don't, I don't.
We need the Supreme Court. Think about it, bro. Everything comes under law. If we had the Supreme Court, it would be easy to get reparations, nigga. Because with the Supreme Court, you're dealing with law. You'd be able to use all the constitutional laws and all that and just hammer all they ass, and they can't fight nothing because you own the Supreme Court. I mean, from the Supreme Court, I think what? Don't the president and the Congress would have to veto them, and you could use law, you could sue their ass, you could show all that little corruption, and they wouldn't be able to fight you. And you'd be able to deny all that bullshit that they take to the Supreme Court. Nope, we ain't dealing with that. Get that out of here. Y'all know that you can appeal to the Supreme Court for a case, but they don't have to hear it. They only
Hmm.
deal with top notch stuff. So
And they
that's all it
generally
would
gonna
be.
reject it. regardless. So
And they
I
could
want to
stop a
look
lot
into
of,
this.
yeah, read up on the Supreme Court. They could stop a lot of stuff. They got
Oh
power.
yeah.
That's why it's called the Supreme Court. They got all, matter of fact too, all them cases dealing with like civil stuff, dealing with the police. Oh man, yeah, a lot of that stuff. The Supreme Court will be able to handle that.
So I want to look into that, and I am going to do that because I thought about it here and there, and I just never really did the research. I want to see how many of our cases annually actually reach the Supreme Court if need be. You know what I'm saying? So I am going to look into that. That's very important that you brought that up.
Well, with the
And we don't
Supreme,
have a hand, to my knowledge, we don't have a hand in putting these judges in the Supreme Court, right?
I think,
Is that strictly the president?
I think they're appointed, which also then that goes to show you if they are appointed by by the president. I mean, and our people are big, and that goes to show you then if you got the Supreme Court, you got the president down there.
Yep. Vovo.
well, yeah, the Supreme Court. We got two Black Americans in the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? They both had done coonish shit in the that's on their resume. You know what I mean? But they the Supreme Court. That's by definition. Supreme means superior. That's the highest. There's nothing you can't get more superior than the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? But something I want to touch on about the Supreme Court just reminded me. I don't know how y'all feel about the illegals. This is kind of my first time speaking with y'all, but one of the judges, uh, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she said that she wants to take a look at the 14th Amendment. You know, these illegals and all these motherfuckers, that's how they become citizens. That was meant for the American Negro after slavery. That was meant for the freedmen, the 14th Amendment. She's challenging that and she wants to reword it. She wants to revise it to make it so that there's no loophole there, so the wording isn't fucked up. You know what I mean? So that's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. That's a good thing, and that's a Black American woman that's got that on the table. You know what I mean? But as far as us taking this Supreme Court, you can't take that because it's a lifetime appointment. You're not. There's no voting for it or no shit like that. We ain't got no say in that. The American people ain't got no say in that. They'd have to do something really egregious and we'd have to like campaign. The American people would have to like campaign to get them thrown out or some shit. That's the only way. But they hold that seat until they die.
Well, wasn't not to cut you off, but wasn't Kamala Harris? I'm sorry, not Kamala Harris. Wasn't Joe Biden pressured to get? I'm gonna just say a melanated woman.
Was he
Do y'all
pressured?
remember those talks?
Well, she's in
As
there.
a
She's in
vice
there.
president,
Oh no, as a
huh?
vice president.
Yeah. Do you remember when they was? I'm gonna look this up, but around that time, I remember one of my coworkers brought this up earlier. They were highly suggesting that he get a melanated woman to be his vice president. A lot of people was even talking about so much as Michelle Obama. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna look that up. It seemed like I remember them pressuring Biden to do it, and he did it. Um, Biden is just as racist as any other white supremacist. He is a white supremacist. Um, Before he leave, do you think that he's going to do some damage to American Negroes? Anybody?
I mean, yeah, I think there's going to be a bit of curveballs because this guy. I mean, people forget that he was the senator. What was he? Was he from Delaware or something like that? I think he was like the senator from Mascot. This dude was crooked before he was in that stuff. Just a racist and so
For a
far
long
to
ass time.
anti-blackness. Yeah,
Yeah.
he worked for the credit card companies. He was the man was horrible. And and remember, I want everyone else to remember this thing too that California, the bastion of all this liberal stuff, they voted for keep putting slavery, by the way. So that's what they want at the end of the day. They want cheap labor. They want slave labor. Even the most precious liberals, they don't want. They're like, oof, like, You want actually to start paying people? They don't want that. They had the chance to get rid of it, and they chose no. So remember that most of these white liberal friends of theirs, man, because scratch that liberal a little bit, you find the fox in the the what Malcolm X was talking about. I mean, that's what
So
history shows us. So and that's what it is, and I think that's the reason why most people you weren't going to get any reparations from Kamala Harris. You weren't going to get that from anything like that, and she said no. In fact, all they did in the campaign was to belittle and say, "Oh, black man, this, that, the other." They were hammering black men. You listen to those stuff there, the campaign stuff, and Barack Obama, Michelle, all of them were going after her. And I'm like, you do realize the majority of the people who voted for Trump wasn't black folk. It was white women and Latinos. It's just like,
hmm
we're just easy. The reason why they can go after us with such force because there's no political, no political backlash or any type of business backlash or political backlash or anything else. If President Obama says something like that, to a white woman, nah, that ain't gonna happen. They done lost their stuff right then and there. Same with Latinos because they have financial support and they have political stuff. So yeah, in fact, even when that late date, whole Puerto Rican stuff is garbage and such, there are people pulling Puerto Rico saying, "Yeah, I still voted for him. I didn't care." That, that anti-blackness is so deep with Latinos and such that they could be called like literal garbage. Their state and all this stuff is garbage. And they'll say, they'll stoop up and say, "Thank you, sir. Can we have another?" They'll say right there, they'll follow him right there. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? I'll let y'all talk.
no, I mean, you would think that people would know by now, but a lot of people don't read or really keep up with what's going on. I noticed that a lot of people don't start getting into these political tight things until they 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. By that time, the damage has already been done in their life. You know, Jamal, I got to get Jamal right quick. He had his hand up for a minute.
Shit, I didn't even know my hand was up. My bad. Well, shit. I guess I'll just make comment on what I uploaded in the jumbotron. Reading that definitely means we need the Supreme Court even more. Because think about that. I mean, they hold the judicial power,
hmm
and that has. I mean, we got to keep it real. Sorry about that noise. Goddamn, racing down the interstate. The judicial system alone has effed our people up. Even myself. I mean, I was adjudicated at 14, unfortunately, for some bull crap that wasn't even worth charging that high. But yeah, if I ran it, you wouldn't even be able to charge those under 18 as an adult, not unless it's murder or rape. But they're allowed to charge you as an adult for things like home invasion, car robberies, things dealing with like violent crimes. But then half the times when they do charge you as an adult with those type of crimes, most people plea out. So why would you even allow me to plea out if you had no intention of taking it all the way, giving me a life sentence and all that? It's just a big old game. So yeah, that judicial part is a huge factor.
I'm gonna go to Vovo, but before I do, um, Ron, if you bored, you can get the fuck out. And when your number is called, then I'll bring you back up here. But in the meantime, you gonna sit there and you gonna wait until your number is called. Vovo, you got it.
Yeah, let me say this right. A couple things that was touched on. Uh, it okay. It was the damn. I forgot. It was so much. Oh, about the Puerto Rico thing. Those Ricans that was so mad. That was fake outrage. That was fake outrage. The people that live on the island of Puerto Rico can't even vote for the president anyway. They can't vote for the president anyway. The ones that's over here, the ones that's standing on the American soil on the mainland, they can vote for the president. They don't care about no Puerto Rico. They if they cared about Puerto Rico, they would be there. You know what I mean? So they didn't that comment that guy made. They wanted to act like they was outraged, but they don't really care. They don't give a fuck about no Puerto Rico. They feel exactly the way that guy feels. It's a floating island of trash. That's why they threw it in the trash. That's why they left it behind like trash. They never going back over there. They don't care about that shit. You know what I mean? That's just fake outrage. That was one thing I wanted to touch on. And something. Oh, the brother said. So you got charged as an adult at 14?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy. If you don't mind me
Oh
asking,
yeah.
what was it about?
Home invasion. And that's the truth of it. Like the actual crime itself wasn't. It was just a simple burglary. How it bumped up to home invasion, I have no clue. But I will tell you
No,
this.
no, 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 no. Nobody was home. Oh
No, nobody was home. Exactly. You hit it on
That's
the
wow,
head.
crazy.
You
wow.
hit it.
They
That's
You
got a
hit
lot of young black
you hit it on the head, bro.
people in Detroit on
That
that.
nigga hit it on the head. Yes. Nobody was home, and he was a Chico, little crackhead. Hit a lick on the crackhead house, and fucked around. They had us in cuffs and all that, and he was standing at a distance. He pointing at us and all that, talking to the police officer. And before you know it, they taking us to the station and home invasion. I'm like, huh? I didn't even know what a home invasion was. I literally did not know what the hell a home invasion was.
so. How much did they give?
And
How much time did they give?
I ended up getting 5 years probation. You see, I played out.
But they
And
charged you as an
if
adult
I
for that?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh
they charged
wow.
me as an adult. Oh yeah, yeah. I've been in adult system since I was 14 years old. After that, when I got arrested, I would go to regular jail, no JDC. My last time in JDC was at 15, and that was big. They let me go then because they seen that I was charged as an adult. I was in my program when all this stuff was happening. I got sent to a little program. Fast forward a year then passed, and I pled out to that, but I still had the program situation. So they sent me across the street to the little JDC court, and then a judge was like, "Well, shit, he's an adult now. I'm 15 years old. He's like, he's an adult now, So well, I ain't gonna say luckily, but I'm glad he let me go because of that. He looked at it as, well, shit. What's the point of sending him up to a program? He's an adult now. He's in an adult system. He's on 5 years. That's what I pled out to, 5 years probation, and that's how they get you. If I knew everything I knew now, including that case, because sure enough, too, this how they get you, man. When you don't know the law and you don't know the facts of it like that, um, I think what it was like maybe a year or two later, I violated, and I'm in court. And sure enough, the state attorney at that time that was handling the case, he even said it in court. He was like, "Yeah, it's a flimsy case. We never could even find the guy, the whole victim, right? If I'd have known all that, man, I'd have fought that shit. They would have dropped that shit, all that. But you don't know all that stuff, and yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, go
that's
ahead.
how they get you.
Well, yeah. I asked that because I did about
Yeah, I
maybe,
don't
maybe
care,
like
bro. It's all good. That was
no,
years ago.
yeah, yeah, no. I asked that because that was interesting because I did probably like about 2.5 years in the juvenile system, and and in my opinion, I'm almost 40 now. You know what I mean? In my opinion, some of the guys I didn't get charged as an adult. You know what I mean? But some of the guys that I was in there with should have been charged as an adult. Like they was doing some heinous shit. So I'm not opposed for some people getting charged as an adult, like you said, murder for sure, rape for sure. But it was some other shit.
Them are the main two. Them are the
Yeah.
main two. Other than that, there really isn't a point, bro.
No, I
There
know,
really ain't because
I know a guy. He went on a crime spree. Here, I'm talking about he was like that. He shot a police
yeah,
officer, all types of. They ain't have a choice. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it is a
yeah,
case by case basis. I was just,
yeah. It's okay. I would say this, right? I would say murder, rape, and if some type of heinous sex crime, right? But if you talking about just like on some burglary, you talking
no,
about a home
absolutely
event,
not,
all
absolutely not.
all that could all that all that could be fixed. But because how they run their judicial system, how they run these prisons, because they ain't real rehabilitations. They really not. They don't have no incentive for you to be in a program, and especially in prison, like adult prison, there's no incentive for you to be in a program to better yourself. Yet they still give you game time. You see what I'm saying? Like personally, in my personal opinion, you want some game time, get in a program, get enrolled in something, and get yourself educated. It's dudes coming out of prison with a degree. So do something for yourself, showing you want to contribute to society and you want to change versus let me offer you 85%. It be dudes in there all day thugging, doing whatever, whatever, and never enrolling nothing, never change. And then they come back on that same stuff. And that's what that recidivism rate be about. Because dudes ain't in there, I'm telling you, there's no incentive to change. There is no incentive. You dealing with like, okay, case in point, when I did go to prison years later when I was 19, um, you in open bay, right? It's 85 dudes in there. Different looks, Hispanic, black, white, all that, right? Different gangs, a lot of people. I'm in Florida, so that gang stuff ain't really heavy like that, more so than just where you from type stuff. Them dudes in there all day, go in and out, go to their little job assignments, come in, and they'd be with the foolery. It ain't too many dudes in there that's actually taking programs, getting a degree, trying to change. There's no incentive for it because they know they know that they could do 85% of their time and then they're gonna go home. So if a dude got 4 years, case in point, well, I ain't gonna say his name, but like if a guy got like 4 years, you could calculate that. You coming home in 3.5 years. He has no incentives to do any programs, and he know he gonna come home in 3.5 years. Why not have him get into something, get enrolled? There's a lot of dudes in there that's dads. Why not have some type of parenting class? They don't have none of that make you do it. They just gonna give you your 85% time, or you gonna do 85% of your time and you gonna go home. As long as you ain't getting no write-ups. Now, if you're getting write-ups, you'll lose that game time and you'll just do all your time. But they just give it with no incentives for it. That's why I say there's no real. If you've been in the system, there's no real rehabilitation. You have to
That's what
actually. You got to
that's
want to
always
change.
been the thing of mine. You got to want to change,
Yeah,
but
and
that's
that
that's
was me.
always been. But the
That was me.
institutional, institutionalism is real,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
and
that's
and
very real.
you rotten in there. You just sitting there rotten low key,
You,
and it's infested. The prison system is not the ultimate way to reform people
nope.
at all.
Not the way they doing it. No.
Any suggestions? Any
Any
changes you believe should
on
be
what?
made
Oh yeah.
on?
Yeah. I just the main one, the game time. Yeah. People might not want to hear it, but yeah, the game time. If it was up to me, you're gonna do 100% of your time if you don't want to take no programs. But if you want to take some programs, we're gonna give you some game time. I'd keep it real with you, bro.
Hmm.
I'm telling you, bro. When I was in there, and that's just one dorm, right? Let me give you the layout for people who don't know, never been around there or whatever, right? The average prison, the average camp is what they like to call it, right? It's prison, but they call it camps, rehabilitation facilities, all that other stuff. The real, so to speak, prison is what you see in the movies, the jail cells. Florida only actually has one prison. It's called Florida State Prison, FSP, is in North Florida. All the other ones around are just camps. And even though they have jail cells, they call them that, right? In those prisons and camps, you got 85 guys. Well, let's just say the camps. You got 85 guys in one dorm. But now you got like 7 or 8, maybe even 10 different dorms. And then you're gonna have like a whole, they like to call it like an annex. So in that annex or in another side of the prison, it's probably like 500, 600. So it's generally speaking gonna be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 inmates on the camp spread throughout. You ain't got no programs for them. Well, you got programs. You got programs. You don't have no incentive for them to take those programs. And then a large portion of them coming out within several years. Like people, they like to like stigmatize the violent crimes, but most people in prison are in there for petty stuff, burglaries and drug dealing. You get out 2, 3 years off of that. So what the hell have they done to change that type of mindset, to see differently? They don't do nothing. And that's part of the system. They don't want you to think differently
It's a
because,
never ending cycle.
yeah, they don't
It's
want you to think
America.
different. They don't want you to think differently because that recidivism. They need you to come back because of the money that's to be made. Oh yeah. And the
And
meals,
we
it's
hear a
less than
lot.
$1. They feeding you on less than a
Mhm.
dollar. That's how cheap the food is in there. Dead serious. 3 meals a day, damn near less than $1 to feed